Boardroom Brunch on News9. I am Krishna Kumar.
And I'm Karthik Malhotra.
And on this edition of Boardroom Brunch, we are discussing the future of electric vehicles and e-mobility in India. And to do that, we have a very special set of guests joining us on this brunch. We have Mr. Dilip Chenoy, former Director General of Society of Indian Automobiles Manufacturers or SIAM and current advisor to India Battery Swapping Association. Thank you, Dilip, for taking time out to be with us. We have Mr. Som Kapoor, partner at EY Parthenon, also lead of Future of Mobility at EY Parthenon. Som, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us. And also we have Mr. Gaurav Vangaal, Associate Director at S&P Global Mobility joining us. Gaurav, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us. We are having this conversation at a momentous time as far as India's electric mobility future is concerned. Dilip, all the talk is about when will Elon Musk bring Tesla to India? And when he does, what kind of Tesla cars will be there on avail for Indian consumers to lap up? I want your view as somebody who has been the Director General of a Society of Indian Automobiles Manufacturers and seen car sales transform from hatchbacks to now all the SUVs to now we're looking at a future where more and more Indian consumers are going to be going for EVs. How far along do you think we are, and how much of a response do you think Elon Musk is going to get by the time he comes to India?
I think if you look at the whole electric mobility space, right, currently the whole space in India is constrained for choice. And if you look at the policy which permits Elon Musk to come into India, is really geared towards three things. The first is to increase choice amongst customers. So it's not only a Tesla specific policy, a lot of other people, if they wish, they can use the benefits of the same policy and invest in India. The second is also to get in a component manufacturing ecosystem within the country. Because that's how everything started. If you go back to 83, 84, when Maruti came in, Gurgaon did not exist.
True.
Right? Yeah. Okay. And everybody, they came in, they set up a plant here, and they actually got an entire component auto system ecosystem coming in from Chennai. Chennai was the Detroit of India. Chennai, also a little bit from the erstwhile areas of Bengal, where Ambassador had their plant, and also from the Fiat, Maharashtra side. And it transformed the thing. You're going to see a similar transformation happen in the availability of alternate fuel vehicles, electric mobility vehicles in India with this happening. People forget, the first electric vehicle actually which came in, sports car, low slung, people forget is the Prius.
Yeah.
And the number of Priuses in the country were actually very few. And the challenge there was you did not have the charging infrastructure, right? You did not have an ecosystem to actually support it. Today in the metros you have a charging infrastructure and you have the ecosystem to support any electric vehicle that comes in. And not only are the, one thing what electric mobility has done for the automotive sector, reduce the barriers of entry.
Dilip, I want to really help our audiences understand, and you are the best person to deconstruct this whole hype around Elon Musk for them. At one level, obviously, Elon Musk, the most followed man on Twitter, the most talked about entrepreneur globally, is looking very seriously at India. And at the same time, the government is pretty much laying out the red carpet by way of policy intervention and reduction of import duty, albeit only for 8,000 vehicles a year, but to 15%, very lucrative. At this point, who needs whom more? Does India need Tesla? Or does Tesla need India, given all the challenges that Tesla is facing abroad and given India's own push towards e-mobility?
I think the right way to frame that is India needs electric mobility.
Okay.
And the policy that they brought out.
India has electric mobility by way of Tata Motors to begin with. There are multiple other companies, MG for example, with its partnership with JSW looking at launching more electric vehicles. India will see electric vehicles in the luxury space emerge from BMW, Mercedes, the entire JLR pack again.
Absolutely.
Linked back to the Tata Group.
The challenge here is that none of the others actually are backwardly integrated into components in battery and technology.
Okay.
Tesla is.
Right.
And if you look at this whole new manufacturing policy that they brought in, is looking at also supporting phased manufacturing program.
All right.
And scale. Right? So surprisingly, if you look in percentage terms, if you look at the different segments, right, the higher percentage of electric vehicles as a percentage of total sales is in the high-end vehicles.
Are there going to be any other beneficiaries shown of this 15% import duty on 8,000 electric vehicles costing $35,000 and above?
Could be. I'm not specifically just import, but if you look at VinFast as an example, they could be a beneficiary of the scheme coming through. Similarly,
but VinFast, if I'm not mistaken, is again into low-cost cars, right? VinFast continues to make $10,000, $12,000 cars, and not really the $35,000 and above segment.
Correct. But you asked me if there were other beneficiaries of this.
Of the 15% import duty, which is specific to $35,000 and above as a price tag.
So there could be players from other parts of the world who could probably want to look at India, and me and Gaurav were talking just before the show that there are other players. I mean, I don't want to name specific companies here, but who would be probably looking at India as a destination for them to enter, especially in the electric vehicle space. So if you if you just take this question back, and if we move beyond Tesla for the minute of this conversation. To develop the electric vehicle ecosystem, there's the most amount of noise, as we see on the brunch here, is also on Tesla and
It's about the timing, isn't it?
It's the passenger car
Timing
market.
is everything.
It's the passenger car market, etc. But actually, being the nationalist that I am, if we truly, like what Chenoy was saying, that how do we go ahead and develop the overall ecosystem? I mean, if you were to look at the two-wheeler ecosystem, the three-wheeler ecosystem, the small electric three-wheelers, if you were to look at the fleets, electrifying all of those actually helps us from a nation's perspective way more. Because what happens is, not only do we reduce, why are we doing this? We want to help our environment, we want to get to our ESG goals, etc. And the second thing is we want to reduce
our import bill.
We want to reduce our crude bill. Now, who would be using more crude? All those electric two-wheelers, three-wheelers, fleets, all of those put together are just the passenger car market. So I think this is a step in the right direction in terms of the overall development of the ecosystem.
Dilip, you're shaking your head at that.
Yeah, no, because we have two problems, right? And I think Som touched about both of them while he was speaking, but his solution is not necessarily solving one problem. The two problems India faces, the first one which all of us look at is import of petroleum. Right? How do we reduce? So for that, hybrid, higher mileage, flex fuel vehicles, alternate fuel vehicles, all good solutions. But in the metros, where end of pipe is a challenge, where air quality is a problem, hybrid, flex fuels, etc. are not going to be the long-term solution. It's just going to be pure electric or hydrogen. Even hydrogen has its challenges, right? And if you want to understand the complexity of how you shift from one fuel to another, just look at when the Supreme Court mandated moving to CNG. Right? Even now you have queues outside CNG stations. Right?
So eventually, Gaurav, is it going to take absolute hard stick policy intervention which is going to make this energy transition in mobility happen, like it happened for CNG? Because Som was talking about buses and the large commercial vehicles which are the guzzlers and which are the polluters. A lot of work has already happened in converting them into greener tech. We haven't seen that with four-wheelers.
See, I think it depends on government. At one point of time, which Mr. Chenoy was just mentioning, that regulation has to lead something, specifically towards the cities. And we know that what has happened with the NGT ban on the over diesel.
That's right.
And I can see that after 10 years, maybe you can see only electric vehicles running in the cities. Okay, so because NGT today is talking about going to the next tier cities. Right. So I think at one point of time, government or the regulatory bodies has to take this decision whether they wanted to go for the cities or not. But meanwhile, I think till 2030, what we assume that it is going to be the ICE-dominated market, and the hybrids are going to play a major role in it. It's not that we can ignore the CNGs and the hybrids anymore, because India has a very extensive network of the CNG, and I think we are the largest amongst the selling the CNG vehicles in the world. So I don't think this is going to happen because next point is that we have to take care of our affordability of our consumer also, right? EVs are expensive. We have to understand this, and Tesla entering into the market or somebody else entering into the market, it is going to help the ecosystem, which everybody has mentioned. With the Tesla, I think we will have new technologies coming, new suppliers coming, and we have to, at one point of time, we have to think beyond the domestic market also. Tesla has the destination markets. Tesla can bring the demand volumes to us. They understand the other markets well. The only thing which they are looking at right now is to move out of some of the countries and moving the base into the Indian market. Right now, where the Tesla is available, where they are making the cars, it's Germany, it's US, and it's in China right now. In the short term, they might be entering multiple countries also.
Mexico, I believe, is on the
yes.
horizon.
So Mexico is on the card right now, but yes, they have to look beyond it.
The facts on the table right now is that electric vehicles, especially in the passenger vehicle segment, the penetration is what, 2 to 3%.
2.3%.
2.2 to 3%. It's like, it's the penetration of levels of penetration of Indians investing in stock markets, which has remained in that 2 to 3% region for 2 decades right now. So, and we were discussing Reva. We were the first electric car in the country. From those days of Reva, from 0.2% to 2.3% is what we have traveled. In stock markets, they say there's always time for a breakout rally.
Yeah.
If there was ever a time for a breakout rally for electric vehicles in India, the time is now, isn't it, Mr. Dilip?
Yes, I think the time is now for 2 reasons. The first thing is that if you see in the last 4 to 5 years, both at the center and at the states, there have been a series of concerted attempts, right, to actually create the whole ecosystem around electric vehicles and give them benefits, right? So, everybody heard FAME 1, FAME 2, right? But if you look at the states, they support charging infrastructure. They support, even they add on to the central subsidy for, 2 and 3 wheelers. The next big push you're actually going to see is in buses.
Right.
Right? Because that is key. And I think, the challenge here is, and it's a very interesting challenge, right? That if you take, there's one thing, okay, it takes 3 hours, 2 hours to charge a 2-wheeler or 3-wheeler normally. So people are developing fast chargers, you're doing all sorts of things there. But actually in the 2-wheeler and 3-wheeler space, battery swapping is the option. 6 seconds, 10 seconds, you drive into a swap station, you swap your battery. What difference it makes is the government actually allowed people to sell vehicles without batteries.
Without the battery.
So now if you want to reduce cost, I'm coming in selling you a petrol vehicle, or I'm saying, hey guys, Krishna, you got to buy this vehicle, but guess what? You got to buy 5 years of fuel with the vehicle when you buy.
Obviously, the cost goes up.
Yeah.
So battery swapping clearly is the one thing that's not being discussed enough when it comes to developing the electric mobility or EV ecosystem in this country. And battery swapping sounds like that F1 pit stop. If it takes 6 to 7 seconds to just walk in and to go into a battery swapping station and then replace it, it's both cost efficient and time efficient as well. We need to hold our breaths for a bit because, gentlemen, we're here at a brunch and it's time that we start tucking in and start having the brunch that we are here for. But Karthik, isn't that fascinating that so much of talk around electric vehicles and electric mobility in India, not enough talk about the things that are not headline grabbers, like battery swapping, like electric vehicles that are not cars, that have got nothing to do with Elon Musk. We're talking about our e-rickshaws. And also the two-wheeler electric vehicles that we have, there's just not enough talk around it, isn't it?
I mean, to be fair, Krishna, we have seen headlines. In fact, we've had these discussions also back in the studio, not at beautiful brunches like these, where we've talked about this headline number of 1 million EVs sold, 1 million scooters sold, etc. But I think, what you're talking about headlines. I think what really grabbed my attention about a week, 10 days back was what the Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari said, that once the government, assuming the government does come into power, and once the government comes to power for the 3rd term, they're going to go heavily against ICE engines. So while at one point we're talking about developing this entire ancillary industry around electric mobility, if the government were to come down heavily, either for reducing the import bill or for ESG concerns, climate change, etc., tackling all of those large, macro, lofty ambitions, what happens to the ICE infrastructure which exists in the country? And mind you, India has sold, 40 lakh cars last year, 4 million cars.
4 million.
So what happens then if the government were to come down heavily against ICE as a tech?
See, if you look at it, if you look at CNG also, right? Those private people who shifted from their ICE vehicles to CNG did it either, converting their vehicles because CNG was a lower cost option, cost of operation, or when the vehicle came to end of life and they went for a new vehicle. So
I have a problem with the end of life also, but I'll let you complete.
right?
There are emotions attached to it.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. The emotions attached to it, the way the government is handling that also needs a different kind of relook. But if you look at the fleet size, and Gaurav and Som will have, they're the statisticians, they have numbers, how many million vehicles on the road. Electric mobility is a percentage of new vehicles sold.
Yeah. That's right.
Right? You're never going to have more electric vehicles sold which are going to do the replacement. So if you're looking at, the right way to look at data of electric mobility is as a percentage of new vehicles, but also as a percentage of fleet, existing fleet.
Right.
Right?
So is there enough data to support the fact that tailpipe emission is the key component in the high AQIs that we witness pretty much every season now? It's not limited to the Diwali and pre and post Diwali season.
I think the conversation from my benefit and for everybody's benefit, I mean, it cannot just be about tailpipe emissions only. You got to look at things like well to wheel.
Okay. Sure.
I mean, when you look at emissions from a well to wheel standard, where
the whole value chain.
The whole value chain. I think when the comparisons will start, the comparison truly will come down between well to wheel of say a hybrid vehicle when it is truly efficient. In the future, which is possible, right? Or a CNG vehicle or any other alternate fuel vehicle.
But some that's the third dimension.
But I think it's an important dimension.
Yeah, no, but you see the dimensions vary. If you're looking at a country in net zero, right, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you're looking at tomorrow and today in existing cities with high, very bad air quality,
we're sitting in one.
Yeah. So it's another thing. And then if you look at the import bill, it's another thing, right?
And we want to embrace new technology. Gaurav, I know, you've been silently listening and all this while. Where should the government focus its energies? Because you can't have a confused outlook when it comes to the next level of technology you want to adopt. If you want flex fuel, you will have the supply chain of flex fuel to be ready by the time you start inviting engine makers to make those. Or in any case, it's a chicken and egg, right? If engine makers are going to operate on flex fuel, they will need the buyers to be able to recharge or refuel using those flex fuels. Hybrid cannot work without ICE. I mean, hybrid is pretty much a mix of ICE and electric anyway. And pure electric is going to need infrastructure of its own. So do we need a singular focus? Or are we okay living with chalo petrol gaadi bhi chala lo, diesel gaadi bhi chala lo, CNG bhi chala lo? We've done that long enough already.
I think one thing we need to understand that from last couple of decades, India wanted to have a stability in the policy and regulation. And this government has shown the rigidness towards the policy.
Is it really rigidness in policy?
Yes. If I have to talk about the auto industry, yes, because we have moved from BS4 to BS6 in a couple of years.
Okay.
Then we brought the safety norms also, and we brought the BNN caps also. And today we are looking for the CAFE, and we are already talking about the ICE to EVs. Okay, and we are very clear. I think from last couple of years we are already looking at how India government is very particular about the EVs. They're not letting down with the hybrids taxation, because there is a pressure from the industry that the hybrids needs to have a reduced taxation, right? So I think government has shown the rigidness, and that brings the stability. Whenever the decision makers are sitting in the global headquarters, when they talk about India, they want one thing from us: the stability in the regulations and policies. And government has shown this till now, and I think in the long term, if you have to talk, EV is the final answer, or the hydrogen is the final answer. But can we afford to jump? Can our consumers afford to jump right away to the EVs? I think no, because we need some transition in between. That's where the hybrids and the alternate fuels, when they're looking for the ethanol based also, because as Mr. Chenoy said, that one of the major concern is the import bill, and we are the sugarcane surplus country. So we have to think about it, that how we can bring a self-sustenance in the domestic market.
Okay.
Right. And so self-sustenance in the domestic market, talking about that, and we began this conversation talking about Elon Musk. Elon Musk, by the time he comes to India, at least in the first initial phase of things, we're looking at him getting around 8,000 Teslas a year into India. That number and 8,000 Teslas with each Tesla costing around what, 40 lakh rupees?
40 looks as
Yeah.
a good
That
estimate.
in the Indian market, Shom, is a luxury car. You know, it's just below the Mercedes.
I mean, you spend a few lakhs more, you get the C-Class.
The
or
Mercedes
3
C-Class,
Series,
for God's sakes.
or the
And
3
Mercedes
Series.
C-Class does much better numbers than 8,000 cars a year. So, I mean, just do the math for us. You know, Elon Musk coming to India is one thing, but the numbers with which he's coming is not making sense for a market like India.
So that is exactly what I was trying to say, that, you know, when I started this conversation, I mean, the most discussion we've had is on one company trying to enter India with whatever 8,000 cars. But what we should actually be concerned, as all of us being nationalists and proud Indians over here, is how do we solve the, we can't solve the problem, it's a multi-billion-dollar problem right now, but how do we at least take steps towards reducing our crude bill, making sure that we leave the environment better for our kids than what we inherited at least. So if I just look at those two lenses, I think we need to probably look at strategies which can help us resolve those in the long term, right? I don't think the most amount of noise on the brunch has been on the passenger car, but I think we need to think about this from an ecosystem perspective, which has the two-wheelers, which has the three-wheelers, which has the fleets. I mean, a fleet in a day would end up doing what, 200 odd kilometers a day, right? Your personal passenger car would probably do 250 kilometers in a week, right? So what do I need to electrify first? Do I need to electrify that Ola Uber fleet car, or do I need to electrify Karthik's personal car, which he drives from his home to his office and then back in the evening? So if you look at it from a total cost of ownership as well, all said and done, everybody sitting on this table, we are concerned about the total cost of ownership. Unless we can reach an inflection point where we say electric vehicle actually from a total cost of ownership is either equivalent or better to being, to matching an ICE car.
Tesla selling 8,000 vehicles is nothing in India.
Yeah.
As per my understanding, they will get the bookings within few hours. We have seen with the Mahindra XUV 700, we have seen with the Thar, right, which is a two-seater vehicle.
You've seen it with iPhones every
Scorpio,
time you watch.
every
You
phone.
see it with
So the
Godrej
moment-
properties every time they launch.
Exactly. So the moment
There are enough rich people
they
in
will
this
come
country.
and launch this vehicle for a booking, you see the response from Indian market, and then you will see that how the things will
No,
get
but
the
I think that's
inflection
the
point.
cap that the government of India has put
Put
for
on
a
them.
reason, that you don't want them to bring all their unsold inventory from all over the world and dump it on us, right?
They're Indian vehicles.
Right, sure. I mean, they can produce a lot more in the
No, but,
Germany plant.
but
and bring it
that
here.
gives you the initial confidence in the Indian market. That gives you the promising thing that you can invest in India, and if with this price point of 40, 45 lakh, whatever they come with, right?
Yeah.
If they get this vehicle at this point, and if they get the 8,000 booking within hours, I think that's a real boost for their confidence, and they will definitely going to invest better, and they will definitely try to come to the lower segments to 25 to 35
But let's try
lakhs.
and understand, since we're still on Tesla and we're still talking about Tesla coming to India, I think the larger question is that it's not a very smooth drive for Tesla in other parts of the world as well. China is understandable with competition from BYD and overall discretionary spending in the country low because of the economic situation is one part. Even in European markets, there aren't enough mechanics who understand the
How to
EV
fix them.
technology very well. So actually there are more number of EV cars going to the junkyard than ICE engines. And in the US, for again want of more options, people are preferring to not go ahead with the Tesla. So while deciding on a policy framework to encourage EV is one part of the story, is Tesla the best partner out there?
Let me be the spokesperson for the Indian automotive industry for the next 30 seconds. We sold 4 million cars last year.
Yeah.
If you look at any good analysts, prediction numbers for say 2032, 2034, some people predicted at a 6% CAGR growth, some people predicted a 7% CAGR growth. If you look at those numbers, we're going to be hitting close to 6.5 million cars, etc. So just as somebody sitting outside of the country, right, where the whole world seems to be stagnating at 0%, 1%, 2% growth numbers, and here comes this mass country of which is already doing 4 million, looking to get to 7 million in a 10-year time frame. It already is. It's not just a sellable story. I think the story has already been sold. I think what we are seeing now is the execution of that story. I think what we've proved in the last 10 years to everybody sitting outside, and this comes non from the automotive industry, but what we've done successfully with our tech stack, including the financial inclusion of so many people, how we've managed COVID, how we've managed the banking system, how UPI has changed the game, etc. So every time I'm in a boardroom conversation now, wherein we're talking to a bunch of leaders from companies who are probably thinking about investing in India, the first couple of minutes of that conversation to prove what we've done in the last 10 odd years, where we are, how the market's grown, how we didn't fall during COVID and actually have come back so much stronger. I think that part of the story is done. We just need to find a way now to say that, the execution that you're planning to do will be smooth and we'll help you through that execution. We probably have, I don't want to say the best, but one of the better consumer markets in the world for the next 10 years. Our demographic dividend is best. It's probably very, very good. Hopefully we'll have a lot of policy stability going forward.
Fair enough.
We're leading through our Amrit Kal. So I think, to my mind, alternate fuels overall, including EVs, is the way to go forward.
There is auto and there's auto ancillary.
Yep.
There's making electric vehicles in the country and making all that's needed to keep an electric vehicle running. And that, we're talking about making batteries in this country. I just want to understand, where are we when it comes to feeding the electric vehicle manufacturing industry in this country?
And the new technologies in addition to lithium, which is sodium ion, for example, building up.
I think if you were to go and talk to some of the big supplier houses in this country right now, if you were to go and talk to some of those promoters, the first, what is burning, the midnight oil over there is just one question: how do I diversify? How do I make sure that I'm diversified enough from a product portfolio perspective to make sure whatever I make right now is either meaningful for an EV car, or can I move into an ecosystem wherein I can do a lot of production for EVs? Or the third point they're all talking about is import substitution, because the government's big on localization, right? And localizing for Indian products. So every big supplier house in the country is building out a roadmap for themselves to say that, we help a lot of suppliers trying to build that roadmap out. And truly, the kind of exuberance that I've seen in the last 2 odd years from that community to come and say, guys, if I'm planning for my generation and my next generation with a 10-year, 15-year, 20-year horizon, I just need to come up with a product portfolio which is meaningful for whatever be the shift in the fuel strategy for the country in the next 10, 12 years. I think they're all gunning up for it. They've all kind of taken some bets into it already. I think what they're doing is they're making a 2x2. They're saying, this is going to be my big bet. I am entering this segment. They have a wait and watch for certain product segments, and then they have a no regret that, all come and done. In the next 5 years, I need to move to this part of the ecosystem. And then they have some things where they believe is all speculative and may not happen in the future. So everyone's trying to come up with a product strategy for themselves with this 2x2 with a 10, 12-year horizon. I wouldn't say everybody is thinking, like you saw the amount of divergence just amongst the 5 of us. So it's not a simple question and it's a much tougher answer. But I think everyone's taking their bets from the supply community perspective to thinking about localization, thinking about import substitution, thinking about electric vehicles, thinking about alternate fuels beyond EVs as well, and placing good bets for the country.
All right. I guess our very special edition of Boardroom Brunch has reached its end. We've all tucked ourselves in very nicely and also managed to have a sumptuous conversation along with that as well. Thank you, Dilip Chenoy, Som and Gaurav, for taking time out to be with us. And Karthik, I guess the answers are not simple when it comes to electric mobility in India.
All I can say is at least we've been able to gather enough food for thought today. Let's munch on that as Elon Musk comes and goes and we see headlines of when he's actually going to set up that plant and where that plant is really going to come up.
Sure. Yeah, we'll see.
So cheers to that and
cheers
to new transitions, if not new beginnings.
Cheers, guys.